Hello, citizen of the world. Welcome to channel. You are one step closer to become a front-end expert with this video. In today's video, we're gonna take a look how we can write a custom hook. In the previous videos, we mentioned about what is hook exactly, so you can check that out if you are not familiar with the hook concept in React. And I have a project set it up here, which I already set it up in the previous ones. You can check from there as well once again. And I have three components here: component 1, component 2, and component 3, which are rendered inside the FTSX here. I created a counter hook, which I called use counter. And in order to create a hook, a custom hook, you need to use the use prefix while creating the hook, because that's the way of React understanding this is a custom hook, so it's gonna treat that accordingly. And writing a custom hook is something that you can do when you need a helper function, for example. Like, instead of writing a helper function inside utils like this, for example, you can create a custom hook for a logic that you repeatedly use in your application. And here we have a counter example which returns an increment, decrement, reset, a counter properties. These first three these are functions, and this is the value that we are counting. And we have a use state here. In the increment, we are increasing the value by 1, in the decrement by -1, and resetting the 0 here with reset, and returning the counter. And since this is returning an object, to use this hook, you need to import it, as you can see, from the whatever file you are exporting from. And then to access the values that hook is returning, you need to do the extraction here, and you can access other properties as well if you need them. So I'm just gonna render the counter here in the FTSX file. That's why I just exported the counter from use counter. And if you take a look in the component 1, I increment the counter by a click of a button here. I'll explain this in a second. Let's comment this for now. And in the component 2, let's go to component 2. In the component 2, we are decrementing the value and logging and rendering the value here, as you can see. And in the component 3, we are resetting the value. Let's save this. A custom hook is not something that you can use globally. What I mean by that is the counter value is not gonna be changed globally. While we are incrementing the value here in the component 1, the value in the app component FTSX here, this counter is not gonna change, because you are pretty much redefining the use counter here, and this is a totally different value from the value that you are displaying here, even though this is the same function, the same hook that you are using. In order to get such logic, you need to use some global state management. So if we are try to increment, as you can see, this is incrementing. If I try to decrement, you might think, like I said, you might think that this is gonna decrement this value, but actually it's gonna decrement its own value, because, like I said, it's creating a whole new value every time you define this hook, every time you use this hook. So you cannot change a value from inside of a hook by using it from in one component and expect the value change in another component. And since this is already 0, reset not gonna do anything because it's 0. And as you can see, the app TSX value didn't change at all because of the same reason. One quick detail that I would like to show you. But before that, this is pretty much the way to write a hook. And this is the whole logic of a custom hook. It's not something very complex. It's pretty straightforward and easy to use. You just create a function with use name prefix and export the business logic, the functions or values that you would like to access throughout your application. And that's it. This is the way to create a hook. If we come back to the component 1 with the 4 times increment function called, I need to go and do this. Sorry. uncomment and comment this for a second. Let's refresh just in case. So you might expect here that since I'm calling this increment function 4 times, you might expect the value counter to be increased by 4, but actually it's not gonna do that. You are calling again and again and again, but the time you call the value, it's 0, and each time you call the value is actually 0. But if you do, you can set a value in use state like this as well, with a callback function which takes the previous value as a parameter, and then you can implement your logic according to your needs as a return value here. And if I increment the previous value by 1, so every time I call increment here, it's gonna first increase 0 to 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and finally we will see the 4 as our counter value. If I refresh here, as you can see now, I can increment it by 4 like this. So this is a quick tip about use state usage as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And it's gonna be a context API video, so stay tuned for that.